Hello there, everybody, and thank you so much for joining us today for one of our weekly webinars for Boeing employees. My name is Samantha, and I am in client services here at the Retirement Group. I moderate these weekly webinars. In just a moment, we're going to be joined by our advisor, Michael Corgett, and he's going to be speaking to Boeing employees about how you can retire from Boeing on purpose with purpose. But before I bring Michael on, I would like to very quickly remind you that although we work very closely with both active and retired members of Boeing, we are not affiliated nor endorsed whatsoever by Boeing. We are a completely independent group of financial advisors here at the Retirement Group, so please keep that in mind. After Michael's presentation, I will jump back on with him very quickly to ask him any of the questions you may have entered into the Q&A chat throughout his presentation. Please feel free to ask away. It is completely anonymous, and Michael will answer as many as he can, time permitted, of course. And with all of that boring stuff out of the way now, let's bring our speaker on, Michael Corgett. Hi, Michael.
Thanks, Sam, and thanks everyone for joining us today. We really appreciate it. Today's conversation is going to be about retiring on purpose with purpose, and we're going to touch on a number of things that we believe are important both now and in the future for individuals that are considering retirement. The agenda is here on the slide. Why do you want to consider the retirement group? Returning to the office policies and mandates. We're going to discuss pension benefit overview, the impact that inflation is having on all of us, including our investments, the tax treatment of both your pension plan and your 401k, and again, why you might want to consider working with us here at the Retirement Group. Again, welcome. Why consider the Retirement Group? Well, we are a team of advisors. I am one of those with a great deal of experience in over 150 years worth of knowledge and experience working with all the Fortune 500 companies that we have focused on for years and years. We do have offices nationwide. I personally am based here in St. Louis in the Midwest, but I do have clients all over the United States. We have a great knowledge of your savings plans, your pension plans, and your benefits in general. We do work with a number of Fortune 500 companies like AT&T, Boeing, ExxonMobil, Merck, Caterpillar, just to name a few. We do know what we're talking about, I like to say. And then finally, all of the resources that we have to offer are probably the best one that I think everyone should consider is our complimentary financial analysis. We like to call it our Retire Kit, our retirement cash flow analysis. It's something we'd be happy to put together for you. I like to call it a roadmap to your future retirement. It is very comprehensive. The more data that we put into it, the better it's going to provide you with solid information for your retirement. These on-demand webinars are one of our other many resources that we have to offer. We maintain a library of all of our webinars on both our website as well as our YouTube page. We have retirement guides for many of the employers that we work with. So all you have to do is reach out to our office and request one. We'd be happy to email it to you. We maintain an ebooks library filled with books on all sorts of different subjects. We also have a regular newsletter and even a blog. So all you have to do is reach out to our office and we can point you in the right direction. And I'll follow up here at the end of the presentation with an email address and a phone number. You can follow us on our LinkedIn page where we keep everything updated. We publish a lot of great articles on our LinkedIn page. All you have to do is scan this QR code and follow us on LinkedIn. You can also follow all the advisors on LinkedIn as well, because we're all connected to the LinkedIn page. First, let's talk about the retirement planning checklist. You'll see 5 different items here. I want to say the most important one is the first one. Are you emotionally ready to consider retirement? Whether it's a month from now, a year from now, or 5 years from now, or even longer. And are you comfortable with the idea? Are you financially ready for retirement? The other 4 items are things that any financial advisor can help you with. Certainly, we are in the business of managing our clients' assets and producing income for our clients in retirement. We can help you to decrease any risk and the volatility that you might have in your overall investment portfolio, while maximizing your potential retirement income. And I'm going to talk about all those sources of funds here momentarily. And finally, we can also help to minimize your tax liability. I like to call tax bracket planning one of the specialties that we have, trying to maximize whatever tax brackets that you're currently in without making you or forcing you to jump into the next marginal tax bracket. And finally, working with any financial professional. We can help you in a lot of different ways, and one of those ways is to help you to develop an investment philosophy that you are comfortable with and that makes sense to you. You know, we are in that business, so we can do a good job of pointing you in the right direction, giving you the guidance and advice on an investment portfolio, again, that does make sense for you. Some of the key changes that we're going to talk about today. First, the return to the work policies that many employers are now issuing and in some cases mandating for folks like yourself. We want to make sure you understand your pension and your 401k, the impact that inflation has on our investments as well as our spending power, some of the tax issues that we can avoid and possibly might incur on your 401k. And then finally, just avoiding the mistakes by working with an investment team like us here at the Retirement Group. I mentioned sources of funds. Well, there are 4 traditional sources of funds, or the 4-legged stool, for retirement assets. First, everyone thinks of as Social Security. Social Security is important, but you cannot retire on Social Security. It is definitely a source of income. You're going to want to consider when's the best time for you to take your Social Security. At full retirement age, which for most of us is at 66 to 67, or early retirement up to as early as age 62. You take a reduced benefit, but it might make more sense for you, especially if you retire early. Your pension. Many of you have pension plans, and that pension benefit can be taken in a number of different ways. Traditionally, either a monthly pension check for yourself or a smaller benefit that provides a survivor benefit to your spouse, your husband, or your wife. So that's definitely the second most important source of income. Your 401k and any other savings that you have earmarked for retirement. Your 401k is traditionally and usually the largest financial asset that you have, because obviously it's something you could contribute to via payroll deduction. You could contribute up to $30,000 if you're over the age of 50, 22.5 right now if you're under the age of 50. Significant portion of your income can be directed towards the 401k on both a pre-tax as well as an after-tax, or into the Roth feature in a 401k, which is an after-tax contribution, but grows tax-free. And having multiple buckets of money within your investments, whether it's in your 401k and or outside IRAs, outside Roth IRAs, brokerage accounts, money market funds, CDs, and even real estate investments, a small business that might generate income. All of those sources are important, especially if they're part of your retirement plan. Then finally, real estate. Here we're just talking primarily about the equity in your home. A lot of the people that we work with have homes that are either paid for or are near paid for. A lot of people like to go into retirement without a mortgage. Not everyone can, but for those of you that do have a home that's paid for, the equity in your home can act as another source of income. And it's certainly something that we could talk with you about when we get a chance to visit with you. All right, let's dive into the different changes. First, RTO, the return to the office policies that many employers are currently implementing again, now that we're, 3.5 years into the COVID issues and whatnot, and we've come out of COVID. It's created a lot of issues. We worked from home. Many of us have worked from home, worked remotely for several years now. And these new returning to the office policies are going to have implications for both you and your employer. And we'll dive into some of those here momentarily. But they also can have an impact on your retirement plan. A lot of people liked working from home. I know I did. Working from an office is nice. It does allow you to collaborate with your fellow coworkers, and employers are actually using that language, as you can see here, the power of proximity, bringing employees back together so they could collaborate within the office and generate new ideas. Well, to some degree, that does make a lot of sense. But there are also companies like Apple here, for example, that are implementing policies where we can have a work in the office while working at home balance, because I know a lot of people really liked working from home, working remotely. They didn't have to get in their car and travel 30 minutes or an hour to the office, dealing with traffic, and it is certainly a waste of time. And then the same thing coming home. That time could be spent directly with their job. And working from home offers a lot of that flexibility. And you also didn't have a lot of those expenses that you would normally incur when you were going to and from the office. Gasoline in your car, having to buy lunch or out, while you were at the office, the travel, the time, all those sorts of things. These changes are evolving within employers. We do know a number of the employers that we work with are, in fact, mandating returning to the office policies. AT&T, for example, is one of those companies where they're forcing employees to eventually wind up returning to an office, but an office in a specific hub city, which may be in a city long and far away from where you currently live. And we'll talk about that here in a minute. But having to pack up your home and your family and move just to keep your job, well, that's a difficult decision to have to make. Employers, you want to have the flexibility, number one, of keeping your job, and you do want that work-life balance. I mean, home life is very important. You may want to be able to negotiate with your employer. I do know a lot of employers are giving employees some flexibility about when they're going to come into the office, what days they may come into the office, or they come in a week on and then they work remotely from home the next week, these sorts of things. The remote versus in-person conversation is very important, and it could influence your retirement plans as well as your savings plans. It could influence your potential job opportunities within your employer. If you're not willing or don't want to go back to the office, will you not get that potential promotion? Will your boss or your boss's boss hold that over your head? These are all things that individuals like yourself need to think about. And as I mentioned, it could have an impact on your retirement planning. The changing work norms can affect retirement plans. A shift back to the office may affect your timeline, your saving strategy, and your overall retirement goals. I do know that for a fact in many of the conversations that I've had with individuals over the last 3.5 years. There are jobs that are remote working, but there are jobs that are not moving forward, and it could affect your overall retirement savings. In other words, if you've got to go back to the office, you might wind up spending more money like you used to have to do. And I mentioned gasoline and wear and tear on your car and having to buy lunch every day. Okay. Those are additional expenses that you may have been stashing away in savings or in your 401k while you've been working from home for all these years. And employees that are close to retirement might consider early retirement versus going through the process of going back to work, or in some cases, hey, I'm going to leave if I'm going to be forced to move to another city just to keep my job. Okay, makes sense. But are you prepared for that? And that's where a plan can point you in the right direction and let you know whether you are prepared to retire early or retire earlier than you might have been anticipating. Change number two, understanding your pension plan. I mentioned a little earlier, pension plans do in many cases get paid out in a couple of different ways. Many of the employers that we work with offer the pension in a lump sum, where you could take basically the cash value of your the net present value of your pension plan and take it and roll it over into an IRA and then create your own income stream. Or there are obviously monthly pension checks. The single life annuity is traditionally the largest monthly benefit because it is only based on your life, but most all employers offer joint and survivor options where you could provide your spouse with a monthly benefit. You take a reduction in your benefit to provide your spouse a benefit. Your benefit could be reduced even more by increasing the benefit that your spouse receives. But circling back to lump sum again, interest rates. Interest rates have a significant effect on lump sum benefits. It's all about the net present value of what you've earned in the form of your pension. Those monthly pension benefits that I talked about, let's just say $3,000 a month. That's what you've earned based on your current pension formula, based on the time frame that you want to retire. Well, there's a bucket of money somewhere, hypothetically, with your employer that has a dollar value to it that would create that income stream for the rest of your life based on the time that you retire and your normal life expectancy. Retirement age males is approximately age 85. Retirement age females is approximately age 88, just so you know. Interest rates during COVID were significantly low. And in fact, the federal funds rate was at zero for over 2 years. As part of that, along with all the stimulus that both the federal government pumped into the system and all the free money that they gave us in the form of those refund checks, as well as what the Federal Reserve did by pumping liquidity into the system, helped out a lot of people, but it also created an awful lot of liquidity, which in turn created inflation. And we're going to talk about that here momentarily. But interest rates, the impact of interest rates going up has been directly conceived by what the Federal Reserve is doing to try to bring inflation rates down. Last summer, inflation peaked at over 9%. I mentioned the federal funds rate was at near zero. Over the last 18 months, the Federal Reserve has raised the short-term interest rate from 0 to 5.5%, which obviously has affected all interest rates, including the segmented interest rates that many of your employers use to determine what your lump sum benefit is. A simple example with one of the employers that we work with, a pension lump sum for 2022 versus 2023 with the change in interest rates, as you can see here, have gone up significantly. Employees were taking a hit of up to 35% in their lump sum value because, again, the interest rates that are applied to the net present value essentially required the company to put less money in that big barrel that's got your name on it. These rates are high. They may continue to go even higher, as this chart shows. The Fed may continue to raise rates even one or two more times. The short-term rate might actually hit 6%, as well as mortgage rates. My goodness, 3 years ago, mortgages were in the 2s. Now they're in the 7s. Do you want to have to sell your home, which you may have a great interest rate on, pack up your family to move to another city because your employer is requiring you to do so? And that might be a city where home prices on average are higher than where you live, and have to get a mortgage in the 7 range when you might already have one at 3. You know, I don't think so. And again, these are all things that you have to think about. And those interest rates, again, they have a major impact on a lot of things, but including how your pension lump sum is calculated. It is significant. 1 percentage point in those rates overall can lower a lump sum benefit by upwards of 8 to 12%. Please keep that in mind. The effects of inflation, well, I've touched on a lot of it. Obviously, inflation at 9%, is significant. We have seen prices go up everywhere, whether it was at the pump or at the grocery store or the department store. It just seemed like everything skyrocketed, in some cases significantly. Now, what the Fed has done with raising rates has brought inflation down significantly. Overall, PCE is below 4%, down from over 9. That 9% inflation obviously affected us all, but I mean, we're still talking in the neighborhood of 4%. The Fed hopes to bring inflation down to 2%. Inflation overall affects your overall real rate of return on your investments. And what this slide is saying is that many fixed income investments may not be able to keep pace with inflation. And that's not a good thing. But the flip side to that is a lot of fixed income, primarily short-term fixed income investments, are currently paying great rates. You could get short-term CDs and even money market funds at 5% right now. Now, the real rate of return with 4% inflation is less than 1%. So balancing your overall portfolio, a different discussion, but you've got to keep in mind that all these fixed income investments are definitely not going to allow you to stay ahead of inflation or stay very far ahead of inflation. Number 4, tax issues. The special tax situations on your retirement as well as your 401k. Now, most of you understand that a pension, which I'll talk about here in a minute, but any IRA has limitations on when you can access that. And that's traditionally the age of 59 and a half. If you choose to access your funds prior to that age, you will have to pay taxes as well as a potential 10% penalty. There are exceptions to that rule, and you can see many of them right here. Medical and health benefits, disability, you've inherited an IRA from a family member, excuse me, qualified higher education expenses, first-time home purchases, the list goes on. Within a 401k, you do have the option to access your funds via what we call post-55 tax treatment. In other words, if you choose to leave a portion of your 401k or all of it with your employer, you can make withdrawals from that account balance between the ages of 55 and 59 and a half and not pay the 10% penalty. Post-55 tax treatment. You know, some employers limit the number of withdrawals that you can make, but it is a great tax planning tool if you choose to retire prior to 59 and a half. And we use it all the time with our clients. It's a great way to have a resource, an investment that you can take money from for income purposes without having to pay that 10% penalty. There is also another special way, we call it 72T, substantial and equal periodic payments, which we can utilize for people under 59 and a half with their pension lump sum if they don't have a 401k or much of a 401k. It's just another method of accessing IRA benefits prior to 59 and a half while avoiding that 10% penalty. You just have to do it a special way, and we could certainly talk to you about that as well. And then I mentioned what are you going to do with your lump sum? Well, the smart thing to do is to take your lump sum and roll it over into an IRA and then put it to work based on how you feel, about risk versus reward. It can be done a direct transfer. We certainly can help walk you through that process. There's no taxes on a rollover, and now it's in an individual retirement account controlled by you, invested by you and your advisor the way that you want to, not the way your employer might do it. And then finally, 5, just avoiding the mistakes and working with an investment team. Financial advisors can offer a lot of help and a lot of guidance. Do they understand interest rates, the impact on your pension? Do they understand your benefits, your 401k and your pension plan? Well, as I mentioned, we do here at the Retirement Group. We're very well versed. Are they working with an investment team, not just an individual? I am part of a team of advisors. We talk all the time. We share ideas, both good and bad, but we work together to try and create the best investment ideas for our clients. What other value do they offer you? In other words, we get paid managing our clients' assets, but we can offer an awful lot of guidance and advice in a lot of other areas to help you and your family. Estate planning, insurance planning, and tax planning, just to name a few. Those are all available through our knowledge and our experience to help you. Do they offer a detailed financial analysis? Well, we do, and let us put one together for you. And then finally, I like to call it the elephant in the room: fees. We do get paid. We do have to charge a fee based on the retirement assets that we are managing for our clients. What is that fee? How is that fee charged to your investments? Is it a percentage or is it a flat amount? All right. Does that fee increase or decrease as your assets increase or decrease? All of these are questions that you need to have answered, because we don't work for free. We know you don't work for free. We're an independent advisory firm. We feel our fees are very competitive as independent advisors. We use Charles Schwab as our advisory platform. We're not wirehouse like Merrill Lynch or Edward Jones. They traditionally have much more layers of management, and their fees are traditionally higher. So enough said about all that. Make sure you have a plan. As you can see here, a lot of Americans don't. Let us put a retire kit together for you. And finally, schedule a meeting. You can scan the QR code here on the left and schedule a meeting with myself or one of our colleagues. Again, the QR code on the right will take you to our LinkedIn page. You can send us an email at info@theretirementgroup.com. Request our retirement guide for your specific employer. And then finally, you could give us a call at 1-800-900-5867. I certainly hope all of this was helpful. I know I've enjoyed presenting my thoughts and ideas here, and I'm going to go ahead and hand the meeting off back to Sam to see if we've got any questions. Sam?
Yes, Michael, let's answer some questions really quickly. I don't want to take up too much more of your time or anybody else's, so we're going to just answer a few. The first one: what tax differences are there for a lump sum versus an annuity?
That's a great question. Well, a lump sum, obviously, if you're smart, you want to take it and roll it over into an IRA. There are no tax implications. IRAs are taxed based on withdrawals. Depending on your age, they might be subject to a penalty. Not quite sure. You know what? Reach out to us. We'll let you know. But you definitely, if you do have a lump sum, you're going to want to take it smartly and roll it over into an IRA and then generate an income stream. An annuity, whatever age, it is taxable both at the federal and state level, depending on what state you live in. It's not subject to Social Security taxes, but it is taxed currently. You take your lump sum and roll it over into an IRA and then go find another job. You don't have to worry about taxes on your pension benefits. So I hope that helps.
Alrighty, thank you. Next one: how would retiring early affect my health coverage and costs?
Oh, that's a great question.
Yeah.
As one of the most important things that a lot of people forget about, but then fast or quickly realize, is healthcare benefits prior to Medicare eligibility, which is traditionally at age 65. I hear all the time, Mike, my employer doesn't offer retirement healthcare benefits, so what am I going to do? Obviously, I'll use an example, someone who's 60 years of age. Well, most employers offer COBRA benefits, but those are over a limited period of time. Some employers do offer retirement healthcare benefits, but sometimes those are limited. In many cases, they are subsidized, but many employers are taking those subsidies away. So there are retirement health plans that employers offer, but you have to pay 100% of the premium. And those average premiums per individual are anywhere from between $700 and $1,200 a month. We're talking about a house payment here. Okay. Individual coverage can be gotten elsewhere. The healthcare exchange or healthcare.gov is probably the best place to go look for those opportunities as well. There are options available for you there. And actually, based on what your income levels are, you can get a subsidy from the federal government. We do that quite often for the folks that we talk to who don't have retirement health care benefits. It's definitely important. It can be expensive. It's certainly a conversation that we can have and hopefully point you in a direction that makes sense to you.
Alrighty, thank you, Michael. Last one. If I left before I was pension eligible and came back, can I bridge my years of service?
That's another great question. Most employers allow you to bridge your service if you leave and come back within a 5-year time frame. That's the key. Traditionally, if you leave and then come back to that employer within 5 years, they will typically bridge your service so you don't lose the time that you earned on your pension or just the time period that you earned with that employer and have to start from scratch. Keep that in mind. That's something that you might want to ask your human resources department at the company that you work at too. Thank you.
Alrighty, Michael, that was it. Anything else before we end?
No, I mean, I appreciate everyone's time. I hope this was helpful. We welcome all your thoughts. Again, give us a call at the office, 1-800-900-5867, info@theretirementgroup.com. Thank you. Have a great day.
Thank you, everybody. Thanks, Michael.